So, towards the end, Brian wasn't doing all that well. It's not like he was totally shut in, but he didn't get out very much. So I got back to town from a trip and thought I'd swing by and pick him up for lunch. And then in Newton, they've got a brewery called Abide. And Ingrid and I have known one of the owners for a long time. And they're a bunch of wise asses like us and said it's Newton's oldest brewery. No, Matt, it's the only brewery. So anyway, so I thought, yeah, we'll just swing by and get a bite to eat, and then we'll go have a couple of pints over at a bite. So we used to take our dog over there, so it's very kid friendly, and there's some dogs in there and everything like that. And I get a couple of pints, and Brian's toddles off, and he's talking to the kids and petting dogs and having a great time and everything like that. And comes back and he's like, hey, aren't we having another pint? I'm like, yeah, let me go get a couple more pints. So he's almost done. He comes back to the table and sits down, and he's shoving his pint at me. I'm like, I don't want your freaking backwash. Get out of here. What are you doing? And so he just shaking his head and pushes it back. And I'm like, Brian, I don't want your damn backwash. And he shakes his head again and he goes, I was trying to toast you, asshole. So, like Rusty was saying, he never complained. I think, how many times did I complain just coming over here? But during the 27 years of him, fighting this, he never complained. He just wasn't wired like that. And so we took him into the VA emergency room, and things weren't looking good. And so they're going to wheel him into, and we kind of knew, writing on the wall. But they go wheeling him in for an MRI. And so we're walking down the hall and gets to the MRI room, and they're getting ready to roll him in, and he goes, hi, I'm the lieutenant, and that's the general. How are you doing this fine morning? So anyway, that just gives you an idea, but literally his last words to us was, I want to fight, because they gave the option for another surgery. And it's like, hey, you kind of got a history of infections and stuff like that, but that was what he wanted to do, and his last words. Todd, would you like to come up? Sure.
Hey, before I start, I thought if you got that program, just take a look at that picture, and just close your eyes for a minute. Just think about that guy. That's the guy we knew. As I sit here right now, I broke your rules. So, what I know right now is that right now, at this place and where we are, and all of us together, that we're exactly where we should be. We're exactly where we should be with Brian, with his family, and then with the rest of his family, with his brothers. Brian had one brother until sometime around 1983. Then he just kept getting more and more, and so did we. I remember when I came to JU, I was 17, and we all come from our walks of life, and we made a joke really about my single mother, but I didn't have much of a married family that I saw and stuff, and I had an older brother who probably did what older brothers should do, so I love him now. But I just all of a sudden I had these brothers, I got to experience things. I got to see families. I got to see your folks, and the Joyces and the Davidsons and the Boyles, Fishlocks. I went to these houses and I was with these people that their parents were together, great families, good people, good men. We were together. We became men together. And guys, and being here right now is I'm still, a lot of us are still confused. Like this was the old president's house, I think, which was the end of the campus. And it was weird, it kind of freaked us all out when it was pitch black around here, and Frank Kenny didn't live in here, we knew that. But here we are, with so many memories here, and I've thought a lot about today, and that's why I talk about this guy in that picture. Brian Joyce was, and I'll never forget this, is you look at the video later, he did so many things. He did, we talked about scuba diving, and Dan McCarthy and Manatee Maulers, and he had that group of friends, and then he was an RA, and he had that group of friends where he was an adult and serious, like he tended to be. He played rugby, and he played the drums. He knew like 2 chords. So for me, he played the guitar. I did not. And he was special to all of us. And for everyone that's out there that has been married, you go through this process and you pick your best man. And so at that point in my life, there was no question that Brian Joyce was my best man. And he took the role seriously. That was Brian. And we did a lot together. We went through flight school together. We got our wings together. We were through the RAG together. True story. So many of you have been to SEER school. So those of you who don't know, that's where they train us to survive on our own someday if we have to survive being a POW. And if we all were around Dave Fishlock for our entire lives since JU, we would all have a different language. We know that. So somewhere along the way, we would call each other kid. So so we're in the middle of the woods in Maine. Spent several days. We're now in the POW phase, which I still think is all classified. At least that's what I'm going to say it is and all. But there's a couple of tough parts where they really push your limits very much. And I was in the middle of this very dark room, and they were bringing people in and out. And I remember I got out of this little thing that they were doing and all, and he was walking right by me, and I'm like, kid! He's like, kid! And then they proceeded to continue to train us to be POWs. But Brian was just, he was a rock. So in 1995, when I remember when I got the call and I learned that something happened to him, I'm sure he was scared. You never know it. You never know it. I mean, I'm sure maybe he was asking why. I never heard it. I never saw it. Rusty shared a story about when he did the kids. Brian was just dealt a hand of cards, and he took it the way you expected. He just took it dead on. A lot has happened in our lives over these years, over these nearly 30 years. And I sit here today for each one of you, particularly the Sigma guys that have been there throughout here and there through the years. And, I've had guilt at times. I've thought, wonder if I could do this or do that or do more. And you know what, man, guys, we should all be at peace. Because Brian lived his life the way he was going to live it. And he was with us. And think about the story Steve told. 50th party, 50th birthday, big deal. Family get together. He came to be with us. Think about that. Brian didn't want sympathy or pity. He just wanted to be with us. He wanted to live his life. A lot of you guys might know. So Steve said it earlier, but Brian, they were made aware that something had come back, and after all these years and after everything that he had done and been through and persevered, his last words were, "I want to fight." So I want every one of us to leave with that today, and know that we can do that too. We can live through his strength. It gives me comfort to know that God was a warrior till the end. I mean, he took on another dangerous high-risk surgery, and God had other plans. So, I'm not sure how this works. At this point in my life, 56 years in, I'd like to think there's a heaven. I'd like to think that somewhere up there, Brian's up there with the Colonel, Jenny. She's cooking. She's cooking way more food than she needs to be cooking. Probably some guys coming over later. Colonel Joyce is relaxing, sitting on a drink, and Brian is in his bedroom just wailing away at the drums. And, you know, Steve, you're here holding down the fort. You have 3 guardian angels up there. They're gonna watch over you the rest of your lives. We have all a guardian angel now in our lives, guys, and you know that. And so I would close with, you can't make this stuff up sometimes, but I'm actually planning a squadron reunion in my Navy squadron in the fall with some friends. And I'm trying to find old addresses, and I've got, remember when we used to have address books? Yeah. I still got it, but, so I took my address book out, and this piece of paper fell out. And Steve probably recognizes that handwriting. So this is dated April 12th, 1995. And it says TC. I don't want to say TC, I want to say every one of you guys. Every one of you guys that were there for Brian with Brian. He just wrote me this note. He says, I've been waiting to write this letter to you for a long time. I probably won't say everything I want to say, but I'll try. First, thanks for coming up to DC and everything else you've done. You've done a lot that's meant so much to me and our family. I truly believe the reasons I'm going to get through this is my faith in God and the support I get from friends like you. He's saying that to every one of us. And with that, I just, Steve, thank you for the honor, to talk about Brian. His memory is going to be around for a long time. He was such an impact on so many of us, and he will be missed.